Now, one of the reasons that they're recording this is because Grover and Jane wanted to have a part in this event, and they wanted us to record something of this. And so we're going to say in unison, "God bless you, Grover and Jane," and they're going to hear it. So let's say it. God bless you, Grover and Jane. And don't we miss them? We miss them terribly. And we are so looking forward to the time when they are well enough to be with us again. I don't know of anybody who has been more instrumental in the development of this retreat than Grover and Jane have been. We owe them a great debt of gratitude, and I'm speaking for all of you when I say to Grover and Jane, we thank you. We're grateful to God for you. You are wonderful for us. And if you want to have the opportunity to say it, well, go ahead, fine. I wish you people could see the smiles on the faces of the people when I mention your names. And we look forward to the next time when you can be here. And aren't we blessed to have Tim and Bonnie leading us in the music? We would have been impoverished without them to be here to share their great talent with us and lift us in spirit to the throne of God's grace as we sing these hymns of praise and joy and gladness. They are blessed with great gifts, and we are blessed that they share their great gifts with us. I'm grateful about that. I want to tell you how grateful I am that you invited me to come and preach this week. I'm going to make a confession. I don't know whether I would have come or not if you hadn't asked me to preach. Thank you, Pastor, for allowing me to preach. You know what they say about preachers? Well, no, that's not what I meant. Let me tell you what I had in mind. They say about a preacher that he will go halfway around the world to preach a sermon, and he won't walk across the street to hear one. Do you suppose I would have come? You know something? I'm going to show you next year whether or not I would have come. It's been wonderful to be here with you. And I'm grateful for you. I said that when you had that wonderful ceremony that I didn't deserve, but which I enjoyed very, very much. And I am grateful to God for you. You are God's gift to me. And I needed this. I needed to come back and be with you. And it's been all that I could ever have hoped for. Thank you for your support. You prayed for me. You listened attentively. And you were kind in your comments. And I deeply appreciate the fact that I got to come. We've been talking about the characteristics that are central to Christians. And tonight I'm going to conclude that, but I'm going to talk about all three of them to some degree, and then one of them more specifically. And I'm going to read from the 13th chapter of 1 Corinthians. How many of you read the 13th chapter? Somebody did, and I wasn't going to let you raise your hand, but you already have, and that's okay. It really does cheer me and encourage me that you did. And those of you who didn't ought to be ashamed of yourself. Now, I told you that the committee made a mistake in the dividing of the chapters and verses in the Bible, didn't I? And so what I'm going to do is correct that mistake tonight, and I am going to read the last phrase of the 12th chapter, the 13th chapter, and the first phrase of the 14th chapter, because that's the way the Bible should have been divided in chapter and verses. Now you know I'm not being sacrilegious when I say that, don't you? You know that the divisions of the Bible in chapters and verses have been done in order to make it easy for us to find our way around in the Bible. That they were not necessarily inspired by the Holy Spirit. So I feel free to do this. And if you're uncomfortable about it, I'm sorry, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay? And yet I'll show you. Paul writes to the church at Corinth, I will show you the most excellent way. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. I'm running the King James and the Revised Standard Version together here, and you'll understand if I do that. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. But when I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part. Then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Follow the way of love and eagerly desire gifts of the Spirit, especially prophecy. Now we've talked about the three most important characteristics in the life of a believer in Jesus Christ. And now we've come to the third of the three. And Paul says of those, this is the greatest. It may be the most difficult. It is not easy to preach about love. And one of the reasons that it's not is that it is such a complex idea. It is such a complex word. It means so many different things to so many different people. Jesus and his disciples were in Jerusalem, not far from the temple, and people recognized him and began to come up to him and ask him questions. Some of them were seriously searching for the truth. Others, who considered him their enemy, wanted an opportunity to trap him into a theological error or some other reason to accuse him of a wrong. He recognized them for what they were, but he answered them as kindly and completely as he possibly could. One of them, whom Mark described as a teacher of the law, asked, "Of all the commandments, which is the most important?" "The most important one," answered Jesus, "is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these." This is a direct quotation from the Shema, which is the Hebrew word for hear, and it's the first word in "Hear, O Israel, the Lord the God, your God is one God." It's the word with which the statement begins, and the Shema was recited at the beginning of Israelite worship. And that word begins synagogue worship even today. Now, Paul, in his letter to the church at Galatia, wrote, "The entire law is summed up in this single command: love your neighbor as yourself." In his letter to the Romans, he wrote, "Let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another. For he who loves his fellow man has fulfilled the law." The commandments: do not commit adultery, do not murder, do not steal, do not covet, and whatever other commandment there may be, are summed up in this one rule: love your neighbor as yourself.